is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our breakout session, Are Your Consumer Priorities Driving Your Messaging? We're going to talk a little bit today about keeping up with shifting marketing priorities. I'm Rebeckah Egan, General Manager for Digital Advertising for the Hartford Courant Media Group, and with me today is Samantha Cohen, Laura Kaflik, and Michael Eruzione, all digital strategists for the Hartford Courant Media Group. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hi.
So, in these uncertain times, we've all seen it, right? Can you hear it? The soft piano music, the empty streets with voiceovers, narrators speaking in vague terms about how nothing's more important and we're all in this together, and all of those cliche things that we heard so much of in the beginning of the pandemic. In the early days, in March and April, everything was in a free fall. And it was really important for brands to relay a message of trust and unity and letting people know that they had been in business for many years and would continue to be there for them. But now consumers are having a little bit of COVID fatigue. So where do we go from here? Aren't times still uncertain? Isn't it always important to relay a message of trust? How do you work through that, and how do you display those things without becoming part of the white noise of COVID fatigue? With a little bit of experience under our belt, we can talk about being a little bit more certain in these uncertain times, right? So how can your business walk the line? Those phrases that we just discussed early in the pandemic, if you say them now, they feel a little bit like pandering. And if you go back to pre-pandemic marketing messages of buy, buy, sale, sale, they can feel a little insensitive and even a bit tone deaf. There are people struggling with health, with jobs, with social issues, and it feels a little insensitive. But one thing has always held true. The most important thing to remember about your marketing message is to speak to what's relevant to your customers and find them a way to show how you fit in. So earlier in the summer, the Mintel Group did a study and showed how people's priorities have changed since, March and the beginning of COVID. And what we saw is that spending time with family and friends, your emotional and physical well-being, and caring for the environment in your local community have become a much higher priority in people's lives in recent days. So these are the things that we are going to look to focus some of our messaging on going forward. So these are some themes to consider when building a marketing plan. You want to show how your business can facilitate social connections, how you can focus on health, wellness, and safety, and you can show what you're doing to help your community or the broader world. But also, just as important as your messaging is how you're delivering it to your desired audience. And you have to make sure, as always, that it's engaging, that you're using the right platforms, and that your targeting is right on to meet the audience that you're looking to get. The other thing you have to focus on is your results. Is your campaign building results for you? And if it's not, is it flexible enough to pivot and make changes? So now I'm going to hand it over to Mike, and he's going to talk a little bit about how you can show how your business facilitates social connections in your messaging.
Perfect. Thanks, Rebecca. So facilitate social connections. We can get right into it here. Next slide. So how, as a business, can you facilitate these social connections? You know, the biggest net positive changes and priorities are staying in touch with loved ones and overall mental well-being. One could argue that these are kind of intertwined. You know, we're humans, we're social creatures. Our mental well-being suffers when we feel disconnected. And, you know, based on what happened in March, all of a sudden our lives changed very drastically. You know, finding new ways to engage when activities are no longer an option is challenging. We've lived our lives one way, you know, from little kids, and then all of a sudden things changed. Events got canceled, things were closed. You know, consider parents at home with children struggling to keep them busy while many of their usual activities are no longer an option. That's quite different than how things used to be. So how can you as a business give them back some time in their lives to engage with their family and friends? So we can kind of take a look at here of 7 ways to embrace the power of social connections. Tell a story. That's first and foremost. Social connections always start with a story. You need to find a way to engage your core audience with compelling content that tells that story, but highlight your features, featured your products and services throughout that story. You need to be transparent and build trust. Tell the hard truths from the start. If there's a service that you can no longer offer, if there's a product that is back ordered or it's out of stock, let that be known right away. One way to do that, I guess, you could develop a landing page on your website that's, you know, COVID, everything COVID. Just explain what you're doing as a business that's different now than the way it used to be, and how you're staying healthy and safe, and really make that social connection with consumers as they look into more of your product and services. Leverage the power of social media. It's ultra targeted nowadays. You know, social media advertising continues to ensure more targeted, relevant audiences are seeing your content. Utilize all different platforms of social media. I know Sam and Laura will get into that a little bit more, but it's not just Facebook and Instagram now. You know, there's Pinterest, Reddit. You know your audience better than anyone else. So figure out which social platform that they're most engaged with and utilize that to engage with them. Then we get into video. Nothing is more engaging than video, especially on social media. Spending more, you know, consumers are spending more time at home. They're looking for ways to communicate and feel connected to the outside world. So it's one way to do that is through video. And it's not just a big production video that you see on TV. As a small business, you can host an online conference, you can do panel discussions, you can do a meet and greet session through videos, you know, like we're doing now, or even Facebook Live. That is blown up drastically since more people are working from home and the power of social media has expanded. And this next one's a little scary because no one really knows what it can do, but you have to use the power of artificial intelligence in your favor, especially as a business owner. So AI continues to create a better journey for the social media users. So with streamlined searches, businesses can use AI to their advantage, moving closer to instant gratification that those customers demand. So AI is scary, use it to your advantage when you can. Another thing is those influencer marketers. I know that's a little bit different, and when you think of an influencer, you probably think of big brand, millions of followers, but that's not really how it is. There's actually less with what is known as a micro-influencer, and that's somebody who's local, probably have a much smaller following, maybe 2,000 to 3,000 people, but they're specific in a specific niche, and they build really good loyalty with their followers. And it's a great way for you to utilize them to tell your story and feature some of your products and services through a social connection. And then just get back to basics. You know, Facebook and Instagram, they weren't initially created as tools to sell. They are ways to build a community, engage your neighbors, feature heartwarming stories, things like that. So just get back to that. Take your Facebook page and just post relevant content that tells a little bit more about what you're doing as opposed to highlighting sales or just focusing on what you can offer. You'll see here on the screen here, we have a video that a national example of what Amazon has done to really foster a social connection. So if we could just, it's brief, but we'll play that quickly for you. I don't know if you can hear it, so you might not be able to, but watch. So there's the ad. I'm sorry if you couldn't hear it, but you could see it, and that's what we're trying to do here. We're visually telling a story, and that's what Amazon did an amazing job at. They connected with their customers socially. We're in an environment now where things changing drastically. Events like you see here, events getting canceled. They told a story. They connected with their customers, and throughout the customer journey, they were able to feature how they're able to help through their products and services. Let's get to the local example. So this is the Wadsworth Museum in Hartford. So like I hinted on earlier, life changed quickly. Things shut down, events got canceled, people were looking for ways to better connect with their friends and family. The Wadsworth was able to do an event where they took an exhibit and they put it outdoors. So it's safe, people could go there and be socially distant and still get resume somewhat normality of their lives. And they did a great job through a campaign where they leveraged, again, the power of Facebook through a handshake, which then took to a content page, which featured an article about what they were doing. It had some photos. It was just a really well-written story to explain to consumers how they were adapting to the environment and really leveraging the power of a social platform to send out that message. And it was a really successful not only event for them, but a marketing campaign strategy to get people to show up. So social connections, why does it work? Again, first and foremost, it tells that story. It's completely relevant and relatable to your customer. They want to know what your story is. And it harvests and creates lasting connections with consumers. Very important. Most important is it develops positive brand perception and trustworthiness. Starting a business, you always want to be perceived as hardworking, loyal, providing the right types of services for your clients. And that's the best way to do that is to connect with them on a social level through content. Nearly 90% of global online consumers want brands to share content online. This is a great way to do that is leverage the power of social media. And then, 70% of consumers prefer getting to know a company via social connections. Again, that social part of it where you can tell your story. What's even greater now with leveraging content and social channels, it gets the opportunity to be shared. So you can post it somewhere, but then it can be liked, and then it can grow beyond just your core audience. So those are all things to consider when you're looking to socially connect with the customer. Is the power of what content can do in telling a story visually or written, or a different way to kind of get your message out there. So now we're going to embrace health and wellness, and Ms. Laura is going to be very happy to help you with that.
All right, thank you, Mike. So at the beginning of the pandemic, when everything got shut down, everybody thought, okay, great. Now is the time where I'm going to start eating better. I've got all this free time. I'm going to start exercising. And, life goes on. There are kids to take care of. There is a house to clean. There's work to do. And so we find ourselves, even though we've thought to make it a priority, we don't necessarily make it a priority. And so one of the things that you can really highlight in your messaging is how everyday activities, everyday life can still bring health and wellness into your life. And so when you think about the examples that Mike just showed with Amazon, it showed a girl going out and dancing. So she's being active, she's working. In the longer extended version of the video, it shows all of her practice time. When you think about the Wadsworth example, it's people getting out and walking around Hartford and getting out of their four walls of their house and moving. And so a few other ideas. One that's probably a little bit more obvious would be an example of a yoga studio where you can't have people inside, and so maybe you start streaming a workout series from home. Another idea would be if you're a kids clothing store, maybe you find a way to share activities on social media of things that you can do as a family and getting the kids active and out of the house and away from their video games. If you're a hardware store, you might show some DIY projects where there's some physical activity involved. I know at the beginning of the pandemic, we had all these big plans for things that we were going to do around the house, and it's kind of petered out because we just don't know how to do it. And so having somebody instructional videos or a step-by-step guide on how to get these projects done would be really helpful. Another thing that you might do is if you're a healthcare provider, you might want to share some healthy meal plan options for senior citizens, a very relevant audience, and we all want to take care of our neighbors and our family members that are senior citizens and making sure that they're getting the care that they need. And so once you decide on how you're going to embrace health and wellness in your messaging, you need to amplify that message and get it out to consumers. And so as we've seen in the examples, there's sponsored content by the way of what the Wadsworth did, where it's like a written article. Video content like with the Amazon example. Other options that you have are streaming audio. People are sitting in their home offices and they're streaming Pandora, Spotify, listening to music, anything to kind of fill the quiet of your house. Social media is huge. We get on social media to connect with others, and it's a great place where you can build brand trust. And like Mike alluded to, there's a social platform for every demographic out there, so it's really understanding who you're trying to reach and where they are. Email is another great way that you can reach people. With the pandemic, we found out, in fact, you could have solved all of those pointless meetings through email. And email gives you a longer format in which to convey a message. People are checking their email all the time because they're home. And so it's a really great format to utilize. Native ads fit into a published piece of content and look like they're part of that editorial content. It's another great way to reach people. And lastly, mobile display. People are connected to their mobile devices like never before. We're playing games on it, we're streaming videos on it, we're reading the newspaper on it. And so making sure that you put part of your marketing into mobile display is very, very important. And so here is an example of Instacart grocery delivery. And apologies if the audio is not working, but it really helps to showcase how you can make physical activity and putting your family first as part of the priority. And so here we have a little boy who has decided that he's an alien, and he doesn't have the ability to connect with his friends, and so his mom is going to help him out. She's putting the priority of grocery shopping lower on her list so that way she can spend more time helping her child. It's fostering that social connection that Mike talked about, and getting out and doing something other than just looking at a video screen or watching movies. And now he decides he needs an engine for his spaceship, and so here is a delivery of pineapples, which is going to fuel their engine. And the little kid decides that, his mom is an alien too, just like him, because they've fostered that connection, they've grown closer, and they have been outside doing an activity beyond just, the norm. And so another example is Kimberly Hotel, which is a boutique hotel in New York City. And so this is a really great example of, people are really scared to get out there and travel. They're, unsure of health and safety. And so Kimberly has, the hotel chain has taken some of their former still videos, and the general manager of the hotel has talked about how they've taken safety measures and layered it into what your trip would be. And so it's a really great balance of, here are all the great things that you can experience when you, get out of the four walls of your house and you do a small amount of travel, and know that we've taken your safety to heart. And so I'm just going to show the video for just a moment, because what it shows is that they have taken old still videos or old still images and cut that into a video. And so the importance there is, a lot of people think, oh, I don't have a big marketing budget, I can't afford to do a video. But, the reality is that if you have really great photos and images, you can make a video and narrate over it, talking about, these are the services that we have, but this is how we're going to make it safe for you, and keep you healthy. And so just as a wrap up, here are why these messaging work, right? Health and wellness is not the focal point in either of the messaging. It's a result of the activity. So health and wellness is a result of, opting to have Instacart do your grocery shopping for you, as opposed to going to the grocery store yourself. You're getting active with your kid. You're both focusing on your mental health in that you're making a connection, and you're doing something together, which builds that social nature. It shows getting out from behind the screen and escaping your everyday routine, especially in the example of Kimberly Hotel. Getting out there, going somewhere, changing your scenery, and being active. It highlights safety without losing sight of the bigger picture. And so with the Kimberly Hotel example, as he narrates it, he talks about how they've, so that way they're 6 feet apart. Part of it is about, the sanitizing of your room. And so, they are worried about your health, so you don't have to. It shows that you can repurpose existing content to make it relevant for today. So thinking about the assets that you already have, how can you leverage that to make sure that you have relevant messaging for now, without breaking the budget. And lastly, health and wellness is about more than just eating right and exercising. It's about reducing your stress, which is something we can all relate to. It's about fostering social connections with your friends and family, resting and relaxing, and most importantly, it's about self-care. And so with that, I'm going to kick it over to Samantha Cohen to talk about contributing to the community. Sam.
Thank you so much, Laura. So I want to talk to you about why it's important to show what your company is doing. So people's priorities have changed. What they cared about last year may be completely different this year. For example, people may have cared that you offered the lowest price for your goods last year. This year, they may not care about price at all, and they may really care about what you're doing to help support your local community. So while we hear a lot of bad stuff on the news all the time, a lot of sad news, we're struggling, we're going through a hard year, there's also a lot of good things happening. There's a lot of businesses who are stepping up to the plate, and they're doing a lot of things to support the local community and to support the local consumer. So as these positive changes in priorities are happening, it's important to talk about it and talk about what you're doing on a hyper-local level to support your community. So it could be something really simple. If you're a restaurant and you've decided to do away with plastic straws and do away with styrofoam, you may not think that that's a big deal, but to a consumer who cares about the environment, that is a huge deal. And that may be the deciding factor when they're choosing the next restaurant to support. You know, you could be a local grocery store, a local food market who's decided to, to invest in a food donation program. That's important to talk about. There's a lot of people whose incomes have been cut this year due to the pandemic. So something like that is very important to talk about. And it can help you not only connect with your consumers on a really emotional, intimate level, but it can also help you gain new customers. So I have a couple different examples that I want to share with you today. The first one is from Nextdoor. Now, if you are unfamiliar with Nextdoor, Nextdoor is a neighborhood hub app. It's essentially, again, hyper-local to the community that you live in. So people feel very comfortable and safe using it because it's essentially your neighbors. And it's a place where you can share important information about crime and safety, things that are happening in your community, to, promoting your own services if you're a local business, or selling goods just like you would on Facebook Marketplace. But it's specific to your community. So recently, Nextdoor decided to partner up with PayPal and to allow their members, when they're selling their goods on their social marketplace, to donate the proceeds from their goods to a local charity of their choice. This is a really simple thing that Nextdoor did. It probably didn't cost them a lot of money to do this. They just added a feature to their app. Really, really simple. But the outcome was huge because people care about that. That's fostering, new conversations. So that one simple change actually allowed for more conversations about donating on the site. So the company actually said that conversations on its platform about donating have soared by 7 times since they launched this specific feature. So again, they did something good, they talked about it, so they're actually promoting their app by talking about what they did that's good, and they're inspiring and motivating other people in the community to give back and help the local communities. So we thought this was a great example. If you are unfamiliar with Nextdoor, we definitely encourage you to download it. It's a great app. Go ahead to the next example. This is one of my favorites. This is a local example. You might be familiar with Geisler Supermarket. It's a local family-owned supermarket. Have locations in Connecticut and Massachusetts. Actually, back in March when the pandemic first hit and hand sanitizer was very hard to find, the mayor of South Windsor actually reached out to Bob Rebeckah, who's the president of Geisler's, and he said to him, basically, we're struggling to find hand sanitizer for our town employees. We can't find it anywhere. And I know a lot of you can probably relate to this because I struggled to find hand sanitizer as well. So Bob Rebeckah decided to be creative, and the demand was much higher than the supply at this time. He reached out to John Fitch Distilling and asked if they could help. Now, John Fitch Distilling, local distillery, where they're usually producing gin, rum, and vodka, decided to roll their sleeves up and see what they could do. They mass-produced a whole bunch of hand sanitizer. So it showed kind of these two entities that coming together to see how they could support the local town of South Windsor. And they came up with this great idea. They mass-produced this hand sanitizer. It allowed Bob to stock his shelves with hand sanitizer. They then donated a whole bunch to the town of South Windsor. And they then took it a step further and donated a whole bunch more to Hartford Hospital to show their support for their local healthcare workers. So at a time when hand sanitizer was hard to find, this was a big deal. This was a big deal. It cost them money to do, but it had a huge outcome because they had so much support for them on social media. People were talking about it. People were excited about it. And there's a lot of people actually saying on social media that next time they were deciding which grocery store to go to, they were going to try this time because they were just so unbelievably proud of what they had done on such a local level to really support now. So it's a great story. I decided to create a 3-part series on social media using video to tell the story. This way they can give a shout out to the winner, and this was really he kind of gets this idea. John Fitch Distilling and give him the recognition he deserves for his part. And then they also talked about their donation to Hartford Healthcare. So again, it's a great story. This did really, really well on social media because it allowed people to be able to show their support. They could like it, they could share it, and it was a great story. So as you see here, the 3 different, they're called Facebook handshakes. These are posts that they used with the Hartford Courant, and they posted the different videos that they created. So I will say not everybody has the means to create sophisticated video to talk about what they're doing, and that's completely okay. There's a lot of other ways to do it, which we'll get into the next slide. First, we're going to do. This is a good example of the donation. Again, if you don't have the audio, I apologize, but this gives you an idea of just kind of how their videos looked. This is them bringing the long-awaited hand sanitizer. Nice shout out to John Fitch Distilling. And there you have it. Again, as I do, have somebody come and take cell phone photos of the donation to post on social media. They have to be so sophisticated, but it's all about just getting the word out there about what you're doing to help. All right, so some mediums and platforms to consider when you're talking about telling your story. So a couple of the examples that we showed here, we showed branded content. This is where you would leverage a publisher site, such as Courant.com, to publish articles and videos. You can provide the content yourself. You already have the article, video, or photos. Or seek the assistance of a professional content producer to help you tell that story. The second piece here is social media. So again, you can be more sophisticated where you can partner with a publisher or somebody to kind of help you tell that story and post on social. Or you can simply do it on your own Facebook page, your own Instagram page, and start that way. Again, the trickle effect on social media is huge. People will like, they'll share, they'll start to engage in the content that you're sharing. So it doesn't have to be super big and flashy. It can be really simple, but again, you're just telling the story and getting the word out there. Why these things work. So private content, it provides value to the customer. So just like traditional content marketing, but the focus is on making an emotional connection. And that's why the video works so well. And the same with photos, because it makes them feel like they were there. They get to really see. You're not just telling them, hey, I made this big donation. They can actually see with their own eyes what you did and feel that emotional connection to you. And Rebeckah also pulls the attention to the unique values and ideals of the company to create an affinity with the readers and the viewers. The example that I had mentioned in the beginning about doing away with styrofoam and plastic straws. Again, simple thing that a restaurant could do, but if it matches up with the ideals of a local consumer, you may get their business because they can connect to you, because that matters to them too. The environment matters. So again, doesn't matter how small the change is, the impact that you're having, you should definitely talk about it. Okay, thank you so much. Now I'm going to kick it over to Rebeckah Egan for some closing statements. Thank you.
So I think some things to keep in mind as we've discussed today. There are some fundamental principles during crisis management. And you can see these. This was actually a study done about 10 years ago. And I think it rings true today as well as it did back then. And during crisis, it's important to promote a sense of safety and calm, show that you are community orientated, and highlight your social connectedness. This will allow you to be a beacon of hope. It'll spin your brand in a positive light, and it will take you on through the pandemic and beyond. So with that, I'm going to open it up to questions from the group. We have about 10 minutes left to go.
Okay, we have one question so far, and the question is, what are native ads?
Sam, do you want to take that one since you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, so when we think about advertising, we think of like a banner ad on a website, or we think of, either a billboard, something that looks like advertisement. A native ad is made to feel native to the site. So it doesn't feel like a big, in your face, flashy ad. It feels like it's authentic, true content. So we use native to actually to promote people over to branded content. So for example, if we're publishing an article, top 10 ways to support your local community, the native ad might say, it might be the beginning of the article, and it might say, top 10 ways to help your community, and it might actually start to show the content of the article versus an actual banner ad. I hope that makes sense. It should just feel native to the site, native to the page that it's on, so it feels more like authentic content versus a banner ad. I hope that helps.
And I'm just going to add one sentiment to that. You can usually, so like if you're reading a publisher's website, let's say, for example, the Hartford Courant, when you're going through the Hartford Courant, you're going to see a lot of articles, and then every now and then you're going to see something that looks like an article, but it's going to say sponsored. That is a native ad.
Yes. Any other questions?
Not so far.
All right, give it a minute. And all right. Well, if we have nothing else, I'd like to thank everybody for spending some time with us today. I hope that you learned a little something, and if you have any questions at all after the webinar ends, you can absolutely feel free to reach out to any member of this team. There'll be contact information, I believe, in the, there it is.
All right, thank you so much, Laura, Rebecca, Michael, and Samantha. Everybody who's an attendee, be sure to check out our event sponsors, including the Hartford Courant, by clicking on the sponsors tab of our event site, which is betterbusinesssummit.com. You also still have time to sign up for our last breakout, Say No to Spreadsheets, which will start at 2 p.m. All right, thank you guys so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good day.
Bye.